Hello, everyone. My name is Rose Simpson. I'm a librarian at the New Haven Free Public Library, and welcome to Pan-African Cooking Lab. We are here with our creative in residence, Nadine Nelson, who's going to be showing us about creating recipes from the African diaspora. So Nadine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nadine Nelson. I'm a chef, owner, and educator. Oh, thank you, Barbara, of Global Local Gourmet, and it's an interactive culinary education company. We specialize in experiential Epicurean events, and I am so happy that you guys have been here. I know it's been a little crazy because that's what experimentation is, and I allowed you into my head, which can be a little um, be being a little self-conscious into one's process, although you have not seen my whole process. So what's going to happen is like all these different notes between Tiffany and I, our pictures, all that kind of stuff. I will compile them. I will. I won't probably have a final document till June, which is Juneteenth. I have some projects in Juneteenth and for Caribbean History Month, and I'm supposed to finish these recipes for May, I believe. So I'm going to take my time. However, I do have a really juicy document for you that is very, 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 very long and has many of the resources that I said I would send it to you. I'm not going to be self-conscious and be like, it's not what I would say is perfect, but it's perfect for you. And I think that you'll find lots of resources. It has cookbooks by authors of color. It has resources, different organizations, all of that, old ways, documents, and it has the links directly to them. It is not downloadable because it's not a finished document. And so I I think in what Rose sent you, it says if you want to be part of the Kwanzaa Cooking Club, I will keep you abreast of when I finish things like my maps or things that get published. So you can see, all these different things that we did within these classes, how they can be broken up in different content um, machines. All right, so I'm gonna start with today with the presentation. It will probably be around 20 minutes and then we will start cooking. And we should have a lot of time to be able to do pictures and you can ask me lots of questions. Tiffany has been to Latin America and lived in Mexico. I've only been to Mexico, but I've been to Puerto Rico. Um, and I will tell you about the different experiences of Latin America that I've experienced in America. I'll go over some of the pantry. We have some pantry items, things that you might not know about. And then we'll take pictures and stuff like that. But the cooking part is pretty easy today. We're making a pozole, which is uses hominy corn. And hominy corn is like kind of puffed corn. I'll show you the can when we start cooking. It is a very healthy dish. In Jamaica, we eat hominy also. A lot of young people don't necessarily eat hominy. I think people look at it as kind of like an old-fashioned kind of thing. It takes a long time to cook. Hominy, you have to either cook in a pressure cooker or you can buy it canned, already cooked. We're making quinoa paella. Quinoa only takes 15 minutes to cook. And then we're making, what else we're making? We're making Dominican eggplant or like Spanish style eggplant. So it's like the recipe we did last week. And so everything was kind of separated, but then you cook it and it's more juicy and red. And then we are making, what's the other thing? The zucchini salad. And so we're doing zucchini in a way that I really like, that is really easy for people. So it's like salt curing the zucchini. And so it changes the texture. And it quote unquote kind of cooks it, but it keeps it nice and crisp. All right, so that's what we are cooking. And so can we share this? Is my screen shared?
No, your screen is not currently being shared.
So can we share the screen and then I'll do the presentation, please?
Yeah, if you go down to the bottom, there's
Okay.
just the green share screen
Well, I
button.
don't know if I don't know if I'm a host or.
You're a co-host right now, so you should be able
Okay.
to. Do you see the green?
Yeah. No, I did. No,
There
I
it
did.
is.
I just didn't know.
Yep, there it
Okay.
is.
All right, so everyone, our last but not least is Afro-Latino and South American cuisine. And so if we have time, we'll talk about some of these different names that people call themselves, Latinx, Hispanic, all of that. If we have time, we'll go into it a little bit, right? Because different people like to be called different things, and you don't want to assume. So, all right, Latin America and North America and South America. I don't think that people know that the Caribbean is part of North America, and then part of Central America is part of, well, part of, I'm not a cartographer, cartographer, but here we are. So we got police. Well, you can read the list right here, but I didn't know if people kind of knew that how big the region is, and so there's all these different cuisines. So we're only covering a little bit, and um, but I just wanted to show people, yeah, the breadth of all the different places that are here. That in Latin America, you have the indigenous that were there. You have Africans that came. A lot of people don't realize that, there's Black Mexicans. There are, huge Black populations in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, um, especially along the coast. But even in Argentina, there are Black Argentines, and Bolivia and Uruguay and Ecuador. They might be tiny populations, but historically they have had enslaved people there also. And then Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, and I would include Puerto Rico also in there, even though it's part of America. The landmass, it's like I think Puerto Rico is more connected to the Caribbean than it is to America. I think, unfortunately, because it's part of America. So I know this has been in the slideshow 4 times, but I didn't really read it. And so since I have time to read it today, I'm going to read it because I think it's really important. In addition to the necessity of life, food serves an unparalleled means through which to study the formation of identity within and between social cultural groups. The embodied practices associated with cooking and the effect of taste as both a deeply individual and social experience binds people together through space and time. Food and foodways transcend cultural and religious barriers, since trade throughout time has made many ingredients accessible to all. Further, the movement of foodstuffs and dishes has long been accompanied with the movement of people. Urban centers are filled with restaurants of world cuisines, and food therefore often serves as one's first glimpse into foreign culture. Exploring and challenging how food is or becomes heritage is how, in turn, this shapes identities or cultural practices, provides an avenue to appreciate differences while also demonstrating how all facets of food, its ingredients, preparation, and its consumption can be unifying within and between cultures. Food is an important construction in culture and identity, from cooking identities, tasting memories, the heritage of food. And so this picture is from a really cute film called Tortilla Soup, and it's a Mexican American family. It's an intergenerational movie that's probably, I don't know, almost probably 20 years old, but it takes place in Los Angeles and is really sweet. It's the father. It's the Latino version of Eat, Cook, Man, Woman that's from Hong Kong. So all of this is about trying to inspire people to cook. Like I've been commissioned to do these recipes to inspire people to cook, not only people from the African diaspora, but people who want to be able to get tips from other cultures on how to eat healthy. So talked about how the kitchen is a revolutionary pace, how to make people feel inspired, empowered, to provide fellowship and to connect people to community and unify people. So this is my slide that just shows all the different connections between all the African diaspora. Um, so, the Brazilian moqueca, like today we're not doing anything coconut, but Brazil, which is part of Latin America, not is part you know, it's Portuguese, but it's part of Latin America. But in Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico, they have pescado de coco, or things in coconut milk also. So there's lots of different connections between the foods of of Latin America. Um, so we have these questions that I've always asked. I don't know, like there's all different types of people here, but how um, we look at food or how people eat food determines how we deal with them. So it's like really just important that if you are a practitioner of a cooking teacher, a dietitian, that you think about those things. And I've talked about my background. Um, I'm from Toronto. I lived there for 10 years, moved to New Haven, lived in Boston for 23 years, and been back in New Haven. I've had stints in New York and Paris and other places, Vermont for small periods of time to study. And I love to be able to use my experience to um, change people's lives in regard to food, not about only nourishment, eating healthy, but in regard to fellowship and learning about each other. This is one of my cooking tents in New Haven. I like to be able to be interactive. I don't know if people looked at this video, but it's a really great video. Talks about GMO and like really complex ideas in a rap song though, that makes it really enjoyable and easy for people to understand. So we haven't played it because I think it's around 5 or 6 minutes, but talks about GMO seeds and like really sophisticated analysis and but in a way that people can understand. The whole notion that we're all together. So especially today, like decolonization of food has really been centered around Native and Latin American cuisine culture. So that whole notion of decolonizing the food of your food and going back and connecting to your food. So the recovery of the people is tied to recovery of food, since food itself is medicine, not only for the body, but also for the soul and the spiritual connection to history, ancestors, and the land. And oftentimes, so many people, who are Black or Latino, they'll say like, I don't eat vegetables, and or it's like, oh, we don't eat vegetables. And so many people are disconnected to their ancestors who grew food and understand the historical knowledge of different diets. So it's really important to connect people to that and make them understand that you're not defying your culture, also you're connecting yourself to your ancestors. Decolonization is the ongoing process to end oppression and servitude and restore respect for indigenous knowledge and ways of life. Decolonization requires both spiritual healing and political resistance. To heal, we must acknowledge that indigenous and African traditions in spirituality, music, literature, and food were never completely suppressed by the colonizers, but kept alive, sometimes serendipitously in daily acts of resistance that include storytelling, recipe sharing, and ceremony. Decolonization means reclaiming and honoring our histories, our stories, and our traditions as a way to fight for our common humanity. So what we're trying to do is make people feel visible and heard. That's what Old Ways, who commissioned me to do these recipes in their meal planning and in their different diet pyramids. They're trying to affirm what people might not see visible, because food is really important, and food is a catalyst to a lot of different things. It's just not about what we eat. So we've read those quotes before, but I think that they're really important. And then here, the Latino diet pyramid. There are an estimated 100 people of African descent living in South America, with a large majority in Brazil. The largest portion of African-derived people outside of Africa is in Brazil. The same African heritage staple dishes are found here. Soups and stews are very popular, as rice and beans and tubers like yuca and cassava. Yuca is cassava. I don't, I should tell them that they should change that. Yuca is cassava. So yuca is the Spanish name, cassava is the English name. Okra, peanuts, squashes, and plantains appear on many plates, as do fruits and juices like mangoes and guava and passion fruit and soursop and June plums and jackfruit. You could go on and on. A few, especially like in these places like Peru and Mexico, like in Peru, they have how many hundreds of varieties of potatoes and peppers and tomatoes. A few favorite ingredients are red snapper, avocado, cilantro, and tapioca. Native American roots are seen in their corn maize use. So, you know, your masa harina and all the different things that you can make from that, which are like pupusas if you're from El Salvador, or tamales all over the Latin Caribbean, or tortas or tortillas. There's so many different things that you can make with masa harina, arepas. Um, and the tamales combine peas, carrots, potatoes, rice, and various specialty fillings, including meat or fish. Moqueca biana is a popular traditional dish of Brazil. It is a seafood stew with prominent African roots made using palm oil, coconut milk, shrimp and crab, onions, garlic, peppers, tomatoes, and cilantro. And so, as you said before at the beginning, I feel like that is like Africa's gift to the world, like that whole kind of Creole notion of having like onions, peppers, and tomatoes. You can just do so many things with them, and there's a basis of so many foods from the African diaspora. And I forgot today, my mom made saltfish this morning, and I wanted to bring it so you could see like what the cooked saltfish was, and I forgot. So I apologize. So in the Spanish Caribbean, saltfish would be bacalao. So the Latino pantry. So we have a chote, and I have some for you to show you when we go over. We have black olives, green olives, dried beans, all the different dried beans, dried chilies. And so we're more familiar with the Mexican dried chilies, like, you know, chipotle, which is a dried jalapeno, or huh? Ancho or guajillo. There's all different types of peppers, but then I love those peppers because they have different types of flavor in them. And so those names are different. So chipotle is a dried jalapeno. So you can just go online and look at, you know, it's like what was the what was the pepper that you said? Okay, ancho is a dried poblano. So you can see when you have the dried peppers at a different taste, you can reconstitute them in water and make delicious and very textured and very complex sauces. A lot of people don't know about the peppers from Peru. And so I don't know if people have had pollo brasas. It's like one of the best type of rotisserie chickens that you can have. But they have all these different peppers in Peru, but ají pepper, they they make it into a sauce and a paste, and then you can use it for seasoning. You have tonka pepper, you have a bunch of different peppers from Peru also, and they come in paste. It's hard to get the regular peppers. If you're in a place like Jersey City or New York, you'll be able to get them, or Queens, or like a place like in East Boston or Chelsea. Those are places that have high Latino populations and people from Peru and Bolivia and Uruguay and those places that they use those type of, peppers. But I make really great marinades with them. And when I make them in sauces, like people call them the truth. Like they're really, really complex. If you can get into those Peruvian peppers, you can find them. You can obviously go online. But if you're in New Haven, you can get them at Seatown. You can even get them at Stop and Shop, you know, if they have a good international eye. Chipotle peppers, coconut milk, masa harina, dried cod, corn tortillas to make your tamales and your other things, hearts of palm. People not familiar with hominy, hot sauce, all different types of hot sauce, and a lot of, like, I would say, Latino food, except for Mexican food, Peruvian. However, most Latino foods, they have your pepper, your sauce picante on the side. It's more savory, and you know, Spanish food in general is not a very hot food. You know, it's flavorful, but it's not hot. Um, Fried chili peppers, we have panca pepper, sazon, our spices, adobe, ají. those type of things. When I have worked with a lot of Latino populations. They say, well, we don't eat vegetables. It's like, well, maybe you haven't been taught how to eat vegetables, but historically in all these cultures, they have vegetables. So even in sancocho, or they use chocho, which is squash, or calabaza, which is the Caribbean pumpkin. There's all different versions of vegetables. And I think that as we become industrialized, a lot of people, because we don't have a lot of time and vegetables, you have to chop them up, that has been excluded from our cuisines as we quote unquote progressed. But there are a lot of vegetables and vegetable dishes, or the inclusion of vegetables in their recipes. So cassava, chilies, cilantro, espazote, garlic, guava, lemons, mangoes, all different types of fresh ingredients. We said are different tubers, radish. So healthy dishes. Arepas are either flat if they're from Colombia, or in Venezuela, they're puffed and you can make them into a sandwich, but you can top them with really healthy ingredients, whether they be vegetables or lean meat and beans and avocado. So they can be, especially when they're baked, which they can be really healthy. Baked empanadas filled with vegetables, not only meat or cheese, bean salad, ceviche, different sauces. Thanks. Here is a map of all the different kind of dishes of Latin America, or some of the different dishes of Latin America. And we're saying about like Guyana. Guyana is part of the Caribbean and CARICOM. Suriname is part of the Caribbean and CARICOM. All right, so we have feijoada, which is very much African derived dish, which is a national dish of Brazil and is a bean and meat dish, for instance. Picado, which is a stew. We have rice and beans, pasteles, which are kind of like tamales, a different version of tamales, or some people call them tamales in different regions. We're baking eggplant. We're roasting eggplant. So here is, I love this map because it shows you like so many things that are part of like European or even African cuisine from Latin America. So you have like tomatoes, peppers. You know what peppers are? Well, peppers come from South America also. Potatoes, and then the things that came from the New World, from the Old World over to the New World over here. So, and then how so many of these things have been, like onions. How is that integral to, Mexican cuisine or Peruvian cuisine or all Latin cuisine has onions in it? Citrus, rice is fundamental, and it came from Asia. So again, in the packet that I'm going to give you at the end, this has the map so you'll be able to see it up close. And I tried to, in the document, the reason why I don't have it downloadable is because I want to make sure I have all the attributions correct. And I want to get it also graphic designed too. So in the packet I'm going to give you, this has this map so you can go through, if you're a geek like me, and find out all these different places that, and construct a dish like from where it came from, the ingredients came from. So I'm gonna come back and go through this for you in a second through one of the, yeah, I should go back just a little bit longer because I'm gonna cook it on top of the stove too. All right, so why don't I ask you, oh, can you pass me the quinoa? All right, so I'm gonna go through here and show you, because this hasn't been a traditional cooking class. So, but what I would do if I was teaching in a traditional cooking class to make people feel validated and included, and I'm not the only one talking, like I am. So here's quinoa. So it's tri-colored quinoa. All right. So what can we make with quinoa? So people can type in the chat or ask to speak. What can we make with quinoa?
If you raise your hand or type in the chat that you'd like to speak, let me know and I'll turn on talking for you.
Yes, sir. All the same. Linda raised her hand.
Mhm.
Okay, Linda. Linda?
Yes, I've made stuffed acorn squash with craisins and quinoa and onion. Very good.
Okay. Someone else raised their hand.
Yep,
Rose.
Barbara.
Yeah, Barbara. I've had it's cold though. It's like a Middle Eastern salad. Is it called?
Tabbouleh?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. All right, great. So I have a picture of quinoa and tabbouleh in one of the slides. All right. So how many people have tasted this? Just raise your, I don't know, I can't really see because on the side, but just raise your hand and Rose will tell me. How many people have tasted quinoa before?
Got 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 4.
Okay. So it
5.
seems, all right, so it seems like 2 people have recipes. I don't know if they come from your family, but you cooked them before. For those of you who haven't cooked it before, have you eaten it before? Have you seen it cooked it before? Have you eaten it at a restaurant? Have you tasted anything like it before? So these are questions when I'm about to introduce people to something that might be new. Sheila raised her hand, Rose.
Yep.
These are the questions that I asked. Sheila?
Sheila, would you like to talk? Or are you just raising your hand to say, yes, I've done this? Okay.
And so what I want to do is like make people feel included, make them, I don't know what people know when they're coming to a class. So I don't want to assume. So these are type of questions I go into, and then,
All right, Sheila said wanted to talk.
Okay, sure.
So I haven't cooked a lot with quinoa, but one thing I learned after the first time I cooked with it is that you really need to rinse it before you cook it, or otherwise it will be bitter.
Yes.
We also had a comment in the chat from Rachel. It's great on its own as a grain. Also, quinoa salad, fritters used with black beans to make veggie burgers.
All right. And so that's what I want, like, before we start cooking, like in a class, it's like, so people can hear like, oh, all the different things, and it's not only from me, and that people can feel empowered, and that I can hear their knowledge, and people can share their knowledge. And, like if we're in another class, it's like, well, what did you make for, did you do anything special for your tabbouleh, and if you had a stuffed pepper recipe, do you want to share that? Whatever. But that's how I try and create community and also have people feel like they're being included. Because when you're teaching, especially adults, you need to have some kind of interaction. So, and then if we were in groups, then this is like more for kids. It's like we come up with a recipe together, and it's like, what do you think that you can make with this? And so you throw out people's ideas and then we build upon it. So it's a way for people to feel empowered and part of the process as opposed to being dictated to. Because when you feel dictated to, you don't want to do something, So I'm almost finished. So boost flavor. If you don't know what some of these things are, then tell me. So ricotta is like another version of Sofrito. You have tagine, which is from Mexico, that you can put on fruit or different things. Chipotle peppers in the can that you can add to sauces, dressings. Here is ají, an ají sauce and another sauce made with different peppers. And this is the Peruvian pollo brasas. This is chimichurri. Here's all the different kind of dried peppers. There is a natto seed, which is used to color things. It has a slight flavor, but it's more used to color things. Here's the ají. There's the ají fresh. Here's the ají made into a paste that you can then use into a marinade. So making vegetables part of your diet, you have Mexican corn, you have a mango salad, you have like a bean stew, rice and beans, tacos with vegetables, stuffed tamales, baked squash. So these are all different ideas that I would tell people about and then say, oh, I think I have another slide. Eggplant somewhere, like roasted eggplant with Mexican seasoning. Change how you think about meat. When you're stuffing something, just a little bit of meat. These are all different types of stews, like sancocho is something that's drunk all over. It's a, weekend soup. And it has tubers and it has calabaza and usually meat, but then it can have a whole bunch of vegetables like carrots and corn and all that kind of stuff. Making people realize that not every empanada has to have meat. You can have vegetables in there. Your antichitos. I never pronounce things unless I see them in front of me. But what they say, like kebabs, like you can put vegetables on them, and so you can stuff vegetables. This is Chino Latino food because that they were Chinese that were brought to Cuba, to Puerto Rico, to other places, and so they mix just like in Jamaica. You have a Chinese, Caribbean, Caribbean, Indian food. You have a Latino Chinese food that people don't acknowledge, and in places like Brazil, there's a large population of Japanese that influence the food too. You have rice and beans, and I think that Latino food is always associated with rice and beans. So you have paella. Here is the quinoa salad right here. There's a stir-fried quinoa, like we did last week with the brown rice and the bulgurs. Quinoa is really great stir-fried because it holds all the flavor. So these are all celebration foods. You have pernil, which is like, a lot of Cuban, Dominican, Puerto Rican people would eat. You have mole, tamales. These are all like celebration, foods. And you can add vegetables with them or sides to go with them that make them more healthy. You have drinks. You have like mate. You have real cocoa, fresh coconut, mango juice, all different types of horchata, rice drink from Mexico. Again, this is from Tortilla Soup, family and support, food and fellowship. Food is meant to be shared and so is good health. Think of your dinner table as a healing table, a place where people come together to share beautiful, fresh foods and reinforce a long, happy, and healthy life. If you really want to make a friend, go to someone's house and eat with them. The people you give your food to, you give your heart. So my mission is all about food justice, food sovereignty, liberating people, their food. Usually when I do a workshop, I try and ask people different questions to see where they are in regard to food. If you have a chance, since I sent you the link for this, you should watch this video. They're from Minnesota and they do really great work with kids. Everyone can do something, do it. And information about my company. All righty. Done. I just wanted to, I want to see. In 1 second. All right, so I'm gonna start cooking now. And let me start, you know what, do you want to take the lead on the pozole, or do you want, to do that? And then when you're doing that, or do you want me to do it? And then when I'm doing the pozole, you can just talk. Okay, all right. And then you can have the, all right. So, okay, what am I gonna make first? Should I make the paella first? Do you have the 1 cup of the, quinoa? You guys, I'm not gonna, I gave you, I succumbed and gave you recipes with numbers on them. I gotta work those out. What I do, but, with the final recipes, but you know what I'm working with. So I'm gonna start sauteing some onion, pepper, and, fillet. Can you do me a favor? Can you get your peas and, green beans in the fridge for me, please? You guys can see, yeah. Where's the oil? Yeah. So a little bit of oil. Oh, shoot. So I put some oil in there. Okay. So like you guys can, please. Thank you. So I like to show people how to use quinoa, because quinoa and couscous, stuff like that, it's fast. Quinoa is only 15 minutes to really cook. And because it's kind of a neutral flavor, you can do lots of different things with it. So when you're trying to show people how to eat healthier, usually I go, rice half and half with something like bulgur. Then after you kind of get into that, maybe you might want to try brown rice, and then try and get people into some of the other grains like the fonio or quinoa. Not everyone likes quinoa. I like quinoa. I've always liked it. I like the nuttiness of it. I like the texture of it, and then I like that it has a neutral taste, so it takes on the flavor of whatever you make it with. So as we're cooking, you can ask me questions, please. And also, you don't have to make quinoa just in Latin American preparation. So you can do a stir fry with it. One of my favorite recipes is from a restaurant that I went to in Chicago, and it has like a Korean and sweet chili sauce.
We've got someone with a raised hand. Unfortunately, I can't allow you to talk because Zoom says you're using an older version of Zoom. If you type in your question or comment in the chat, I'd be happy to read it out for you.
Someone have a question?
I'm waiting to see if they post in the chat. We have a question. Do you rinse the quinoa before cooking it?
Yes. But I have to say that I don't always, because I like bitter in my food. I keep the skin on my eggplant. I don't soak it ever. I don't mind a little bitter in my food because I don't do it all the time. But you don't like it bitter? Yeah. So when there's not that many ingredients in something and you want to like really coax out the flavor, when you really caramelize onions really well, it gives a dish a really nice backbone. And so that's what I'm doing. Just trying to coax out the flavor and the color out of the onions. This is a vegetarian vegan paella. If you want to, you can always put meat or fish in it. Oh, look, you guys, for the final pass, I brought only the best for you. Saffron.
What is that?
Saffron.
Oh, fancy.
So I got it at TJ Maxx and Marshalls. I'm good, you guys. That's a lot of saffron that I just put in there by accident. Very colorful. If you don't have saffron and you don't want to pay all that money, you can use the natto seeds. So the natto seeds. Well, can you just show this to them?
There was a picture of annatto seeds in one of the slides you did.
Yeah, so I just want
little
to
red
show
seeds.
Put it in there. Put it in there.
Try holding it under the overhead camera.
Yeah.
That might work a little better.
You see it?
Pull it. Yeah, there we go. Little reddish seeds.
I'm not gonna put it in. Oh. They're interesting to see also. They're interesting to see. Go online and see them in the plant.
All right, we've got another question from Khadija. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but what are some of the don't while cooking it? Like, does it burn easily? I have some in my kitchen and I don't know how to cook it. Are you talking about quinoa?
I can't hear you.
Nadine, I can't hear you too well.
Yeah, cumin. There's smoked paprika in there. There was okay, I just dried cumin. We had the seeds. I brought the seeds so you could see the seeds because a lot of people have never seen the seeds.
Seeds of what? What is that?
Of cumin.
Okay, cumin seeds.
All right, so a lot of people, unless you cook Indian food from scratch, have never really seen it. So I just brought it for people to see.
So the person from before who was asking said yes. So asking about quinoa.
All right, I'm gonna answer your question. 1 second. I just want to get this all
Yep.
because I couldn't hear you. So here, that is vegetarian vegetable stuff. This is for the. Oh, that's good. I know. I don't know why today. It's not like it's that. It's like 4 things. I'm like, I can't remember the 4 things that I have to do. It's like too many things. So I want to make it boil up for a second, and then you just turn it down. And I'll put the vegetables in when it all comes together at the end. So I have frozen peas and frozen green beans. And I also have artichokes
Mm.
and olives. So to make a paella, and I like to do it at the end so I can decorate it a little bit more and not to have all the vegetables lose their color because I like the colors to be bright and my vegetables not to be overcooked. Throw this away from me, please. Can you throw that away from me, please? Thank you. All right, so that is boiling, so I'll just turn it down low, just like rice, and then you steam it out. So I'm gonna get thank you so much. Every week, you're hilarious. Every week. I'm cooking paella. You're welcome to have some more. So I'm gonna transfer actually a stew with the pozole. So I want a little bit more depth in my pot. I'm gonna let that cook for 15, around 15 minutes. Can you wash this out for me, please? Wash this out. Wash out the pot. And I'm gonna transfer this to, when she's gonna put that to another thing. So I didn't answer the question about quinoa. So, quinoa is really easy to cook. You can just put everything in. You don't have to saute it at the end there. I was just doing that to add extra color. But quinoa is really easy to cook. It's just like cooking rice for a shorter period of time. Does anyone have any other questions? Do you have the stuff for the eggplant? Can I just start doing the eggplant? Okay. With rice, all these cultures, you have to cook rice. One of the hardest things for me to cook rice in my life. I probably took to like 20 something to cook it right, and especially to cook it for large groups of people because it can get sticky. So what I do with it, when in doubt, use less liquid and then finish your rice in the oven, especially if you have to cook for a lot of people. Put tin foil on it, hold it together, put less water, and if you cook it in the oven, it will come out nice and shelly. Most people like their rice shelly, so different preparations, but that's a way to be able to cook rice that's a little easier because sometimes on top of the stove, especially when you cook rice in the middle, can get real sticky. I have one big one, and it's gonna cook just cooks evenly. So that's a tip that's not going to be in the recipe that I know that it's not. Hmm?
Nadine, I can't hear you when you're not away from the computer. I think the lapel mic isn't working.
Oh, it's not. So it's working. You see, it's not working. Can you hear?
I can hear you, but I'm not sure it's from the little mic.
Can you hear me now?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Can you pass me the pot, please? Bring bring all the ingredients for the pozole over here. Thanks. All right, so while I'm making the pozole, you can just watch me, but then you can listen to Tiffany, because Tiffany has lived in Mexico and is going back to live in Mexico in around 15 days, I believe. Do you see the hominy?
Yep, I can see the hominy. I can hear you tapping on the mic. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if people could see that it's like kind of puffed,
Kinda.
kind of a gummy flavor. Growing up in Jamaica, we make it into a porridge, and we have it for special occasions. You said you don't have, you have it. Tiffany, yeah, Tiffany has it on a more regular basis. For us, we have regular porridge. Our regular porridge is oatmeal porridge and then cornmeal porridge. And then the special occasion porridges in my household are like plantain porridge, banana porridge, or hominy porridge. Plantain and banana, you use green banana, you got to grate it first before you make it. So that makes it kind of special occasion. And then hominy, it takes a long time to cook. So it's not something you can just get up on a Saturday morning and make. You got to soak it beforehand, pressure cooker it, or boil it for a long time. Yeah. All right. So Tiffany's gonna talk to you now.
Hi, everyone. Get this on. Hi, everyone. So my name is Tiffany Benbow, and I created a called Taste Comfort. And what my mission with Taste Comfort is very similar to Nadine's, is to explore our global connection through food, travel, and simple pleasures. So I'm happy to be able to help out with exploring the connection of Africa and its influence on food, particularly in Latin America, because my next venture is going to be in Mexico, in Oaxaca, Mexico, actually. I find it to be a really unique region of just like cross-section of food. So I'll just be speaking on my experience from being there for about 4 months in 2019. So I just wanted to go over my experience in Mexico. So overall, I was in Mexico for about 7 months. And I was in 2 regions. I was in the Yucatan region, and then I went down more to the southern region. And I just wanted to really talk about what the food looks like there. Because whenever we think Mexico or Mexican food, we kind of have one image of it where it's like tortillas or tacos and things like that. And I just really wanted to emphasize like the diversity that's there. And then also with my experience in Mexico, the Afro, being like a person of color in Mexico, because there's actually a movement now with Afro-Mexicans and recognizing that as part of their actual, their ancestry. So just to begin, whenever you think of Mexico, again, you tend to think of certain foods like tortillas or tacos and things like that. But I just wanted to emphasize the foods that I saw. So things like agua fresca. Mexico is a very tropical place, so it has lots and lots of fruits. also some that was brought over from Africa. And then they have fresh juices always available. So one of those things would be like tamarind. Tamarindo juice will be what it's called in Mexico, and tamarind is something that was brought over from Africa. It's a very sweet fruit, and you'll see trees like everywhere, tamarind trees. It's a tang, and it's very sour. They have a drink in Mexico called Jamaica, which is in English it's Jamaica, and it's actually something that us Jamaicans would know as sorrel, or it's a hibiscus plant, and that would also be part of like the agua frescas that they have in Mexico. Coffee was actually a pretty big deal in Mexico too. In Oaxaca specifically, they have something called tejate. Tejate is a drink that is made from maize, corn, and cocoa. And it actually contains a lot of caffeine, so it has like a coffee effect, and where it kind of wakes you up and just makes you more alert. Something else that was also really popular in Mexico is fried foods. And fried foods, like the act of frying, like in fat, is something that was brought over from Africa to Mexico. So what we consider regular Mexican food now was by the influence of Africa. And and then also, I wanted to emphasize that the way that the actual plate is set up in Mexico is that you'll often have like your meat or something like that on the side. And then it's also always accompanied by a salsa of some sort. A salsa is just a sauce that you put on the side. I know that we typically think of salsa as like tomatoes and onions as kind of like a scoopable dip, but salsa in its bare essence is a sauce. And then there's many, many different kinds that people will use and serve on the side of like many different plates. So a common ingredient will be tomato, but then something that's also popular is naranja agria, which is like a sour orange. So it's kind of like your vinegar base, and that's at the base of a lot of salsas too. So you have just a lot of different variations to give you one example. One thing that was actually really unique to my experience in Mexico is that I did not come across rice and beans. I was in the Yucatan and then in Oaxaca. So those are kind of like on the southern tip of Mexico, whereas the United States is more about the northern tip. So I just wanted to emphasize the absolute like diversity that does exist in Mexico.
I just want to tell people about Poblano Pepper. I wish you would have kept it, and you can look at it online.
Yeah.
So Poblano Peppers, they're underrated. I really like them. They're not hot peppers. They have flavor in them. And so all these different peppers have different flavors. Like Scotch bonnet is really hot, but people don't talk about how fruity and floral they are also. So, get to know these different peppers. You can make really great sauces with them and add them to a lot of things. Stuffed poblanos are amazing. If you have, you want to make stuffed peppers instead of making regular stuffed peppers, use poblanos. They're amazing.
Okay. So my experience of Mexico did not really include a lot of rice and beans. I think it's just particularly because of the region that I was in. Within the Yucatan region, it's still a lot of very original sort of base of how they cook from the Aztecs and the Mayans. Is they keep their culture alive and well. And that didn't really include rice and beans where I was specifically. But there was a lot of like the corn, like ground corn and things like that for the tortillas or tacos and different things. And then one thing I also wanted to point out was mole. So Oaxaca specifically, which is where I'm headed, is kind of known as one of the, like the best places to go and get mole because there's just so many different kinds. There's like your classic mole, which is like a black color. There's a green mole, there's a red mole. All of them are just these very complex, rich, deep spices or this really complex sauce. And even though people think that mole was kind of made in Mexico, it was actually, you can see roots of sauces like that from Senegal, just because of, in mole, there's so many different ingredients. Like you have plantain, you have peanuts, you have chicken, like you have so many different things that are inside this one really rich, complex, decadent sauce. But some of the complexities can be traced back to a similar dish called mafe from Senegal. So that was like my experience with Mexico in regards to food. But then my experience in Mexico regarding like Afro Latinas or Afro Mexicans is that I have an afro, right? So a lot of times when I would be walking down the street or something like that, people would just kind of talk to me, but they would often think I was something like Cuban or something like that. But you know, it's kind of like a very familial outreach to you while you're there. And then one thing that is really interesting to me is that currently Mexico is going through a bit of not a revolution, but just like this sort of a movement as to where they really recognize their African ancestry. For example, the second president of the Republic of Mexico, Vicente Guerrero, there's actually a state named after him called Guerrero. He was of African descent. And then there's a famous person, Father Jose Maria Morelos, who was the leader of like the independence movement of Mexico. He was also of African descent. And it's just like we know these figures, but they're not really indicated for whom they are. And it's something that's really, really coming prevalent, particularly in the language as well. Something called Chilango, which is prevalent in Mexico City, is really being drawn, been given a lot of attention. Chilango is sort of like a broken down language that shows of Africa, that has a lot of African roots with local regional language. In America, we kind of refer to it as an Ebonics of sorts. So just to give you an idea of like how the African or permeates Mexico just on a daily basis. It's actually really cool. And I would definitely encourage, you know, Mexico is right there for a lot of us, and it's an awesome place to visit if you haven't yet. So that was just my personal experience in Mexico that I really wanted to talk about. For me, with Taste Comfort, as Nadine mentioned, I will be moving there in the middle of March. And my project, some projects that I would like to that I will be working on will be the mixture of Latin American and Jamaican food as a fusion. So if you follow along and keep posted, then we'll be coming up with some more awesome recipes to just show how we're all connected and very much alike, and how our food tells our story. How are we doing on the pozole?
We're good. So I had like ancho chili powder. That was a dried chili that I had. I think I have another one over there, but I used ancho because it's not too hot and it will go well with the poblano. I added, this is a vegetarian, a vegan pozole. So usually you can have like chicken or pork. I don't know if I think they probably do seafood by the sea too. So this will cook for like 25 minutes and then I will throw some zucchini in at the end because I do not like my zucchini and my squash like that overcooked. So this is butternut squash, but I was saying like last week, this is the closest thing to calabaza. If you can't find calabaza, and then sometimes the calabaza, it can look a little, we call it, dry or icy, where you can tell that it's not going to be sweet and flavorful. And that's the reason why, you get, squash. So I'm going to let that simmer. And then we have one more cooked dish to do, but it's kind of easy. Did you do the onions for the, onions. And I need it for the eggplant. Yeah. Sorry. Should use that for what you call it. All right, so that's just gonna boil. The quinoa is coming together. I can put this on the back because it won't burn off. I just burnt my hand. Luckily, I have hands still. I just burnt my hand. Oh my God.
I want to run it under cold water. That's usually the first burn cure.
It's all right. So I'm going to turn this down on low. It smells really good. Smells really good. And then the other recipe we have is the zucchini. And so she just, can I see the zucchini? So I can just show them. So all she did was like julienne. All right, so julienne, it's like small strips. You can use a mandolin and you can slice them. You can do ribbons if you have, I think I had something. You know, if you have a slicer, what do we call those things? You can make ribbons. So it's really up to you what size you want. Yeah, I have to put, yeah, I gotta put my hand underneath the ice, it hurt. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yep, I can hear you.
All right. So yeah, so did you put some salt in here or no? No. We're gonna just put some salt on. So is there salt? Where's the salt? Oh, here it is. So you just put salt on here and you let it sit. I'm gonna put a bunch of salt because we only have 45 minutes and I want it to release. It's called a salt cure, and then you just wash them off afterwards. And it changes the texture of the eggplant where they feel like they're slightly cooked, but they're not. And it's a pickle. And then you just put your salad dressing on. And so we have a Sofrito salad dressing. So we just used a store-bought Sofrito, but I did have a recipe on there for you because abuelas, you know, your aunties, your mama, they make big batches of it, and they can either you leave it in the back of the fridge or they can put it in ice cubes and then just pop them out when you know they have their rice and beans or their soup or whatever. And but it is sofrito, ricotta, green seasoning, those type of things are really part of the Caribbean, how they pre-marinate their meat. They're really into in Latin America, especially. You know, pre-marinating their meats and having their food be really, it might not be hot, but it's very flavorful and seasoned. So this is, ooh, again. That's what happens when you put a pot and then you forget that you put, so like, can you pass me a fork so I can? No. Oh God. Like falling apart. So it's a little crunchy. It still needs to cook a little bit. No, we don't need any sugar. It's all right. You can put honey if you want to, but I don't usually put too much sugar on my food. Do you have the onions though? I can start doing the okay. So I'm gonna start doing the Dominican eggplant. I love, this is one of my favorite preparations of eggplant. And all of this is in a Creole sauce. There's onions, peppers, tomato products, and then you mix up the eggplant. You can do it on top of the stove like a ratatouille all together, or some people, they cook the eggplant in the oven first. They roast it, and that's what I did. And then they cook up the onions, the peppers, they put the tomato, and then they mix the eggplant together, and then it becomes a sauce. And so, you know, you can eat it with tostones, with rice. It's usually a side dish with something, but it's what I love. Eggplant's one of my favorite vegetables, and it's one of my favorite preparations. I'm gonna put this in the stove again. Okay. And then remind me, you guys, that I need to use my gloves at all times. Oh, is this cooking in the back? Okay. I don't think it matters. Yeah. Pass it up. So yeah, so we're just improvising. You know, we used up all our onion, we're using a red onion. You know, we used up all our garlic, we're using garlic powder. So just trying to get that back. Just so I can get that from you. No, I was trying to get another cover for the back, but it's not possible. I'm just letting the oil heat up so the onions saute, which saute means to jump. So the pot has to be hot. Yes, sweetie. They still, but you see that they, well, let me show them. So see how the water, can you guys see that? Everyone?
I can see the shredded zucchini,
Yeah, but can you see the water coming off of the zucchini because of the salt?
kinda.
Right. So it just makes for a different texture and it's not cooked, but it tastes, it's not as crunchy as it being not salt cured. The rest of that. So I don't even know if I want to put it in the pot. Just a little bit of that one. I'll just keep that one. I don't even know if I want, because the onions are almost cooked up, so they're cooking fast. Okay. So here's the eggplant. So just gonna take it off. And when the sauce is done, then we put it together and we mix it together and it becomes red. So can you pick up that piece of eggplant skin for me, please? Yeah, thank you. Here, sweetie. So we have some peppers. Want to see the pozole is boiling. And then why don't you clear that stuff over here so you can set up for the pictures, and then I'll do everything else. Thank you. We have a lot going on. So I just wanted you guys to see that this is done. So I'm gonna move it over here and then decorate it some and bring it together. You have a little bit of tomato sauce. So I'm just gonna cook the tomato sauce so it caramelizes a little bit. So like with recipe testing, the reason why I think it's interesting is because now recipes, especially with the pandemic, recipes, a lot of them are done out of convenience. So you have a lot of 5 ingredient recipes. And so I'm showing you stuff that it's you're not gonna say caramelize the tomato sauce to bring out color. There's the extra, it's a lot of steps. So I like to show people how to cook without recipes. If you see my techniques, and a lot of times when you write a recipe, I have to write it for how we are in our population right now. And a lot of people don't want a lot of, if I'm making a curry, for instance, like the Ethiopian recipe that we had, there's a long list of spices. So then I have to try and come up with the least amount of spices that people in a regular home will have. So a lot of times about authenticity and all that kind of stuff, a lot of Americans are not going to have some of these ingredients. So what can you do that will approximate the taste and kind of be true to the dish? Here's water, some vinegar, if I didn't get anything on my shirt, I will be amazed. Yeah. I'm a messy chef. All right, so come together. And that's it. And see, there's a little skin in there. I said to people, I like skin, but in this preparation, I wouldn't use all the skin. But I don't mind if there's little pieces of it in there. All right, this is done. I'll just put a little bit of salt, and that's it. All right, so I'm gonna make one last dish, and then we're gonna do our picture. I'll go over the pantry list, and then we'll do our pictures. And if you have any questions, I'll give you your presents.
We do have a question. What's the dish again? So what are you cooking now?
Oh, it's Dominican eggplant.
Okay.
They make it in other places in Latin America too, but it's really big in Dominican Republic. So like, can you wait, don't get up though. Just sit down. I'm being sarcastic. So right here, I'm gonna put the cover on here so the pumpkin can cook. We have the paella right here. So I'm gonna try and decorate it real nice. I gotta sit down to do that. Oh. So like, can you pass me the artichoke part? Here somewhere. And the they're in the can, Soleil. Okay. All right. And then the olives, please. Thank you. So if I had full if I had fresh green beans, I would like make like a really like kind of directed design, but I'm just gonna go for weeknight. So like, can you pass me a spoon, please? Thank you. I'm just going for a weeknight regular version. If you don't like olives, you don't have to put olives. You can put capers in there. I'm probably not going to put capers today if you want to. This is paella, and then, you know, like orzo con pollo is very traditional. Every Latin country has a chicken and rice dish. Hmm? Did you use it last week? Mhm. Is it helpful or no? No, yeah, you can open it. Yeah, we haven't had time to be able to do it. So if I had time and was so inclined, I would cut these. I'm gonna try and make it look a little bit better.
Do you mind if I introduce myself?
Okay. Okay. I'm taping right now. Okay. So afterwards. I'm almost finished. Oh. All right, where's the zucchini? All right, so this is done. Just gonna add zucchini. And you have to watch with the hominy. Hominy burns really easy. It's a really starchy, so it burns really easy. I just put some cilantro in there, and that's it. It tastes good. Do you need any seasoning? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, so did they get pictures from last week? Did I send them? I can't
You did
remember.
not send me the pictures.
Okay. All right. So I'll send you. Okay. I apologize. What I'm gonna try and do this weekend is like everything that I sent to you, I'm just gonna put it on one piece of paper so you have it. I'll send you all the pictures so you'll have pictures, the notes, the links, all on one page for the class, so you don't have to go to all your different emails and stuff like that to find them. So I'll do that. I'll have time to be able to do that this weekend. So sometime next week you'll get something. Yeah, no problem. So, and just realize the way that I have things are for my notes. I did it for myself, so I understand how to send out things for people. So a little self-conscious, but it's like you can see how much work goes into this. So you guys, when you're doing a class or you're producing a class, for every hour of programming, usually there's 3 hours of preparation. So this was a really huge undertaking because I didn't want to do the recipe testing by myself. I thought it was boring and I want to share it, but this is awful lot to do in 2 hours. And I know that, but I it was an experiment. So I'm glad that I'm sure you learned something, and I'm glad that you could be here with me. So I will let you, as I don't know if I should have given you that document though, till the end, but that's my present to you, and to hold you over for that's my draft. So that's what that big document that I just gave you is the working document that I work from, and I've cut down, and that I will refine to make sense and look nicer. But that is the document that I've been working from.
And I'll post that in Facebook as well, so that people who are watching on Facebook will also get it.
All right. So this was just Sofrito. You see the dressing recipe in there. So Sofrito is something that a lot of people already have in their fridge, or as I said, that people make. So like, can you put these in the freezer for me, please? Just close them up. Thank you. And so it's like lemon juice, the Sofrito that's already blended, oil. So you just put that on, you rinse the zucchini. I don't know if we rinsed this, Susie. I don't think we strained it. No. See, there's all that water in there, so you can see it wasn't strained. So like, can you just strain it. You have to put water on it, just strain it. So the salt on there, I did not drain off, so I will not put any salt in the dressing. I don't need anything else. I'm just gonna, yeah. Whatever. Watch out for your hand, bro. I just need, thank you. All right, so here's lemon juice, cilantro, a little scallion, a little red onion, and a little garlic. So obviously if you have yellow squash, you can use that too. So I'm just gonna taste it, see if it tastes really good. It's not too salty because I didn't put too much salt on there. Put some pepper, and that's it. It's one of my favorite ways to eat zucchini. And except for the oil, it has no calories. Okay. So, all right. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go over and show you some of the pantry items that I brought today. So like, so all right, yeah. So Rick Bayless is one of those chefs that has made Mexican food famous from a cook and chef point of view. He's from Chicago. And I usually don't recommend products, because I'm not getting paid or anything, but I love his salsas. If I'm going to buy a salsa, I usually make my own. I'll buy his because they're really fresh. Everything is really good. So it's a mole. And so they have other moles that are really thick and that you put water or vegetable stock in, and you mix it yourself. And then you see this piece of chicken that has just
Could you
been
turn the phone
sauteed.
camera to look more towards the mole? It's kind of like
Okay.
looking out the door.
Okay. All right.
That's
All right. What?
that's a little better. That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flip it. So my daughter wanted to just
There you
call
go.
me. Yeah, my daughter just said I was Gen X. That's her way of saying boomer. So ancho chili. So that's dried, and that you can no, I'm just, yeah, put it. All right. So that's cumin.
We've got a comment. I used to go to a restaurant that prepared the zucchini that way and added walnuts to it. Very simple salad, but delicious.
Right. And I think that in the recipes I have walnuts or pistachios or stuff like that too. I just didn't have any, and I forgot when I went shopping. I just got a couple of things. 'Cause most of the things I've had. This is, you know, like with the whole thing with Goya and everything like that, which I'm not going to get into because you saw I had some Goya products, and sometimes, you know, like it's hard to get the cook hominy. I think Goya is like the only one that makes it, but you can get it in bags and stuff like that. I'm not averse to any company. You know, but I've always liked Badia. Badia is also a family-owned company, and they have really good spices. And since I work a lot of times with populations that they can't afford, you know, Penzi spices, Badia in most supermarkets and bodegas is really inexpensive. And they have a wide range of spices, and their spice blends are really good. So this is Saison Tropical. I really like this one. It has no MSG. You see, people, no MSG. I really like this red one. You put it on some potatoes and onions. People are gonna love you forever. I have some habanero pepper, dried pepper. This is what I was talking about, the panca pepper. So this is the ají amarillo and jacate, which is black mint. And in Latin America, in Peru and in Mexico, there are so many herbs that we just don't know about. If you're in New York and probably like places like East Boston and Chelsea and Chicago, when you go to the farmers markets, you can get like a plethora of herbs that we've never seen before. When I go, I just ask them how to make them, and then, you know, and experiment if I'm in New York at the farmers market, because they're so interesting. But we only know a little bit of all these different produce items that we can get. So this is the ají that you can make into sauces, season up your meat, your vegetables. This one is panca pepper. All right, so you see how they look dried, you see how that looks. So, but I always have these because especially in the summertime, I use them as for marinades all the time. Chipotle peppers. If we stay in contact and you're nice to me, I might give you my recipe for pollo brasas, which is really good. And last week I didn't talk about my recipe for corn soup that's really good from Trinidad. So this is smoked paprika. It's worth it to get some. Here are chickpeas. Chickpeas are really popular in Spain, and so therefore they're really popular in the colonies that they colonize. So chickpeas are big in Puerto Rico, Cuba. Here's summer squash. Here is radish that's used a lot in Mexican cuisine as a finishing condiment to different dishes, whether it's the pozole or pozole usually has cabbage, fresh cabbage, and different condiments, including radish and onions and cilantro and all that kind of stuff to it. I think that is the majority of the things that I brought today. All right, and then we have around 14, 16 minutes. So if you have any questions, you can ask. So at the end, because we haven't had a lot of time, we always use this light box and we take pictures of the dishes in here. It's made it better. Tiffany and her partner are kind enough to bring this light, and it has a diffuser on there. So you see this bad fluorescent lighting it makes us be able to not have to turn off lights and then isolate the pictures. And so we have this diffuser. So if you don't have that, what you can do is like you can get one of those, I don't know what you call them, floodlights or whatever, and then you can put a t-shirt on it to diffuse light too. As I said, I like to take shots in natural light. It can be hard to find the right light necessarily, but when you have the right light, it's easy to take a picture. So I like to use natural light, usually not in the basement. So yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna just film her and then you wanna use the. All right, but I will make sure that you can see her and what she's doing. And today we had enough time, make sure that today we had enough time to be able to put backgrounds. So see this background here? It's not real wood. It's a background. And so I've had backgrounds the whole time, and we had lots of different pieces of fabric too. And my grandiose plan, if you're in from New Haven, is English Building Market is just down the street, and the owner is amazing. And she has it's a vintage shop that has lots of props. And so she allows me to be able to go in there and get props and then bring them back to her and not buy them. And her name is Carol Orr. If you're in New York or Boston, lots of people come to be able to rent her stuff because she has impeccable taste. And I just didn't have a chance in these 4 weeks to do that. So what I will do between now and June, since this was like the practice run for the recipes, I will test them probably 1 or 2 times to get all the measurements exactly correct. And then I will go and get some really, because she has really interesting pieces. These are my pieces, like I have a lot of wood pieces and I have a lot of nice pieces too, but I just bought the most basic pieces. And but I'll go to English Building Market and some other places that allow me to borrow their props and prop them in a way that I really want to make them really grand. And it just takes a lot. It takes time. It takes like 1 hour to do one piece, really, you know. So I just wanted people to get a taste. So do you want to talk about what you're doing?
Sure. So right now I am just trying to get some individual shots for all of the food. Basically, I go from top down so you can get, just like a whole image of the meal that we're trying to capture. And then I'll go in and take like detail shots just to really get some of the detail.
Nadine, you might want to give
Oh.
her the microphone.
Yeah, sorry.
Put it on the camera. Okay. So currently I am taking images of the food just top down to get a good look of the dish themselves. You can see that the light, the splash, it will go off every time I take the image just to give me that extra burst of light that that you would normally obtain from the natural lights. So, I'm just positioning it to get the best angle. And then, of course, when you see the photos posted later on, you'll see what we were able to capture. Okay. One of the best things about taking photos of food is that you get to go from many different angles, just whichever way you think it makes it look the most appetizing. And I always find that fun.
So in the first packet, I think in the second packet, I gave you tips from Elle Simone, who is probably the most known Black food stylist, and she works for America's Test Kitchen. So she has a lot of different tips that I gave you in the first and second packet. And again, I will make sure that all the different links are like organized so you can have it all on one sheet of paper and not have to go all different places. But she has a lot of really good tips that are in the packet. And then there's another Black photographer named Clay Williams who has photographed myself, my work, when I produced an event at James Beard House. And he, oh, can you hear me? Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Now I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
All right. Did you guys hear anything that I said? I'm sorry. I didn't realize I didn't have the, what you call it on. Did you hear anything that I said
Nope.
before? Oh, all right. So I said that in the packet, the first two notes, I put stuff on food stylists and food photography, like, and Elle Simone works for America's Text Kitchen, and she's probably the most known Black food stylist. And she gives some really good tips about how to take pictures, how to organize your shoot, how to organize your prep area, and before you're going to do a shoot and everything like that. And then I was saying that Clay Williams, he is a freelance photographer, but he does a lot of work for the New York Times and, you know, a bunch of cookbook authors. He's taken pictures of my work and myself, like when I did an event at James Beard House. But he has some really good tips about food photography that I also included, and I included some tips from other websites that are non-Black, just for people if you're interested in food photography, on how to be able to do it easily. All right, so we have 9 minutes. So can I just ask people, what are some of the things that you learned and that you will take away and remember and do that will make me happy? You can write it in the chat, or
Or if you raise your hand, I can turn on talking for you.
Okay. Yeah, you can say it in the chat if you're shy, or
So just what are your takeaways from these classes? Okay, looking forward to reading through the Google Doc that you've created. It's amazing and full of great information about our ancestry.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's a really good document, and there's some really good websites like Taste Atlas. If you're into like culinary history, it has information from all around the world. It has maps from all around the world. It has dishes from all around the world. So there's a lot of really good websites. In there, you know, people have looked at it really briefly. Those are not all the cookbooks for people of color and for Black people. That's something that I have to update. That was done maybe 2 years ago. So there's all these other books that have come out. So it has to be updated. But there's also websites for bloggers, because especially like a lot of the Black bloggers, African bloggers, they have some really good content out there in regard to video and writing, but they might not have books, and they don't necessarily get the mainstream exposure. So check out a bunch of those blogs also.
We have a comment on Facebook, the similarities and differences between our food now and our ancestors.
Great. I hope that people saw the connections between the different groups. You know, last week we made eggplant in one way, and this is just a little bit different. You know, like today I was going to bring you the saltfish, the salted cod, and the only thing that's different is that if you eat it in Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic or someone's household that are from those ethnicities, is that there's more tomato sauce in their bacalao, but it's made the same exact way. They just like the eggplant was red colored, that's how their bacalao is. But it's onions, peppers, tomatoes, usually also too. I'll also try and put in
the packet, if I remember. I'll remember in June, but I don't know if I'll remember next week. Is movies from the African diaspora, because there's a lot of movies that, you know, more than soul food and tortilla soup, there's a bunch of African movies about food that are really funny. Like I just watched one a couple weeks ago about can't remember what it's called, but it took place in not South Africa or Nigeria where they usually have movies. I don't know if it was Botswana or somewhere, but it was a movie about a cooking show and a chef that wins a cooking show. And it was really, really cute. But you got to see different aspects of people's culture, like tortilla soup. He makes these elaborate meals every Sunday. And he shows the diversity and complexity of Mexican food. So I always love cooking films, movies. I always think they're really cute. There's a movie called Abe that's not an African movie, but it has a Brazilian chef in there, and they make the connections. A Jewish boy that is both Palestinian and Israeli, and he makes the connection between falafel and then ajare. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but the black eyed pea fritters that they make that they grind up and fry in Brazil. It's about them learning from each other's cultures. It's a really cute movie. I don't know why it didn't get a lot of play last year, but it's called Abe. And so I'll try and put some of those things in, because I think that movies and just watching YouTube in general, I like to watch people in their own thing, but I can see what they're doing, and it's more authentic. Rose, do you have any questions?
I do not.
I have one more thing just to add really quickly. Something that is also fun is that Mexico grounds seeds, like they ground seeds into a sauce. So I think the most common one we probably know is like tahini, which is ground sesame seeds. But in Mexico, they have something called siquilpac, which is ground pumpkin seeds. And I know that we always use a lot of pumpkin seeds in salads, and you know we were talking about calabasas, and they also ground them into a sauce. So I thought that was an awesome another vegetarian option to, you know, add, and then that's also like a dip and things you can use with like multiple dishes.
So I never used this because we didn't have time, but this is my food styling kit. Has different things for you to make designs and cut things. Yeah, those are fun to use. I had molds. I meant to bring the mold today so we could mold the quinoa. Last week I meant to bring the mold. So many things, so many things. So I just want to say thank you to Tiffany. I want to say thank you to Rose. I want to say thank you especially to my daughter that comes every Wednesday and helps me so diligently with all that I have to do. So I want to say thank you so much to Tiffany. You see, I could not have done this by myself. We would have done like one dish and I would have gone over one slide because I'm not the best multitasker. So I want to thank you for your patience and, you know, being so open and flexible in the difference is that we had like every week. I know it wasn't your traditional class, but I hope that you learned something from it, and you can share it with other people by making a great meal.
Thank you, Nadine, as well.
All right, thank you. See you at 6:30, Rose.
All right. Bye.
So
Yep.
if you ever, so if you want to keep abreast of how I finalize and make these things look nice, then you can sign up for the Kwanzaa Cooking Club. And then also, you know, stay in touch. You can always email me. You can always follow me on Facebook, but then also, you know, please look at the library's website. They have lots of great programming. I'm also doing a series right now. We just did the second one, but Meatless Mondays every month until June. Next month, it's the last Monday of every month from 7 to 8:15. and talking about foods from the blue zones. I always do at least one program in regard to cooking a month as creative in residence. So, but then also like next month, I'm doing a make and take bag where you get, if you live in New Haven, you can come and order a bag and it's given to you for free. And we're gonna be making little portable goddess altar boxes. So I do a lot of different things. I call myself a Renaissance woman, and other people have called me that. And I'd like to share that with you if you want to experience that too. So thank you so much for being here, especially those of you who were here all 4 times. I know that it's not easy to get away from work. Maybe this is part of your work, but I thank you for being here.
All right. Good night, everyone.